What if God chose you? Not because you were the strongest, the most respected, or the most obvious choice, but because of the very thing the world told you made you weak. What if the thing you were ashamed of was exactly the weapon God had been sharpening all along? This is not a story about a king. It's not a story about a prophet or a priest. It's a story about a man with one useful hand, a hidden blade, and a mission so dangerous that one wrong move meant instant death. A man who walked into the throne room of the most powerful oppressor his people had ever known and walked out alone. His name was Ehud, and the world had no idea what was coming. To understand why this moment matters.
If you're enjoying this, I encourage you to subscribe. Go ahead and click that button right there. It just takes a second and it really helps the channel.
Mattered so deeply, you have to understand what Israel had become. The people of God, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, had been given a land, a promise, a covenant with the living God. They had seen miracles that would make your jaw drop. The Red Sea split open, walls crumbled at the sound of a shout, giants fell, armies scattered. But somewhere along the way, they forgot. They stopped listening. They stopped worshiping. They turned their eyes toward the gods of the nations around them, carved idols, silent statues, empty altars, and they bowed down. And God, in His justice, allowed the consequences to come. This is the pattern you see again and again in the book of Judges. Israel sins. God allows an oppressor to rise. Israel cries out. God raises a deliverer. And for a season, there is peace. Then the cycle begins again. It's a painful pattern, but it's also a deeply human one. Have you ever found yourself in a cycle you couldn't seem to break? Where you knew what you were doing was wrong, but you kept going back anyway? Where the consequences came, and only then did you finally cry out? That's exactly where Israel was. This time, the oppressor was a man named Eglon, the king of Moab. Eglon had formed an alliance with the Ammonites and the Amalekites, and together they crossed the Jordan River and seized the city of palms, Jericho, the very city that had once fallen at the sound of Israel's trumpets. Now, it belonged to the enemy. For 18 years, Israel served Eglon. 18 years. Think about that. A generation of children grew up knowing nothing but oppression. Fathers who remembered freedom watched their sons bow to a foreign king. Mothers whispered prayers in the dark, wondering if God had forgotten them. The weight of those 18 years is hard to put into words, but then, finally, Israel cried out to the Lord, and God heard them. God's answer didn't come in the form of an army. It didn't come with thunder from heaven or a pillar of fire in the night. It came in the form of a man named Ehud, the son of Gera, from the tribe of Benjamin. And here is the detail that changes everything. Ehud was left-handed. Now, in the ancient world, this was not a small thing. The word used in the original Hebrew text is fascinating. It literally means restricted in his right hand. Some scholars believe this could mean he was disabled in his right hand, or simply that he was naturally left-handed in a world that viewed the left hand with deep suspicion. In that culture, the right hand was the hand of strength, of blessing, of power. The left hand was considered the weaker side. Warriors trained with their right hands. Guards checked for weapons on the left side of a man's body, because that's where a right-handed person would carry a sword. But Ehud was left-handed, and God knew exactly what he was doing. The people of Israel had prepared a tribute, a gift of payment, for King Eglon. This was the humiliating reality of their oppression. They had to bring offerings to the man who ruled over them. and they chose Ehud to deliver it. Before he left, Ehud did something deliberate, something calculated. He made himself a double-edged sword, about 18 inches long, and he strapped it to his right thigh, hidden beneath his clothing. Every other warrior carried their sword on their left side, within easy reach of their dominant right hand. But Ehud was different. He strapped his blade to the right, the side no god would think to check on a left-handed man. This was not an accident. This was strategy. And it tells us something important about Ehud. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't acting on impulse. He had thought this through. He had planned. He had prepared. Sometimes courage isn't the absence of fear. Sometimes courage is the quiet, deliberate decision to move forward anyway, with everything you have, in the direction God is calling you. Ehud and his men arrived at the palace and presented the tribute to King Eglon. Now, the Bible gives us a detail about Eglon that feels almost uncomfortable to read. It tells us plainly that Eglon was a very fat man. This isn't a throwaway line. It's a detail that will matter in a way that is both shocking and deeply significant. Eglon sat on his throne, powerful and comfortable, surrounded by servants and guards. He received the tribute. He accepted the gifts, and for a moment, everything seemed normal. But Ehud wasn't finished. After delivering the tribute, he dismissed the men who had carried it with him. He sent them ahead, and then he turned back. He approached the king's servants and said something that stopped everyone in the room. "I have a secret message for you, O king." A secret message. The room must have shifted. Eyes must have moved. What kind of man walks back into the throne room of a foreign king, alone, and announces that he carries a secret? A desperate man? A foolish man? Or a man who knows exactly who sent him? Eglon was intrigued. He commanded silence. He told his servants to leave. And they did. Every single one of them walked out of that room, leaving Eglon alone with Ehud in the cool upper chamber of the palace. Think about what is happening here. The most powerful man in the region, surrounded by guards, protected by an entire army, has just sent everyone away because one man said he had a secret. Pride does that. Power does that. When you believe you are untouchable, you stop being careful. Ehud approached the king. "I have a message from God for you," he said. And Eglon rose from his seat. Whether it was out of respect for the name of God, or curiosity, or something he couldn't explain, he stood up. And in that moment, Ehud reached across his body with his left hand, drew the hidden blade from his right thigh, and drove it into the king's belly. The Bible describes what happened next with brutal, unflinching honesty. The blade went in so deep, handle and all, that the fat closed over it. Ehud could not pull it back out. He left it there, walked out through the porch, shut the doors behind him, and locked them. He walked away. Outside, the servants waited. Time passed. They assumed the king was relieving himself in the private chamber, a reasonable assumption given the locked doors. They waited, and waited, and waited, until the waiting became worry, until the worry became dread. When they finally found a key and opened the doors, they found their king dead on the floor. And Ehud was already gone. He had escaped to Seirah. And the moment he arrived, he did something that tells you everything about who he was. He blew a trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim. He called the people together. He didn't hide. He didn't disappear into the wilderness and let someone else figure out what came next. He stood up and he spoke. "Follow me," he said, "for the Lord has given your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. Not I have given you victory. Not look what I did. The Lord has given. Even in his greatest moment, Ehud pointed upward. The Israelites followed him down from the hills. They seized the fords of the Jordan River, the crossing points, cutting off any escape route for the Moabite forces. And then they struck. 10,000 Moabite soldiers fell that day. The Bible says not one of them escaped. Not one. The army that had held Israel captive for 18 years, the force that had seemed so overwhelming, so permanent, so impossible to overcome, was gone. In a single day, because one man listened, one man prepared, one man walked into the most dangerous room in the world with a hidden blade and a message from God. After that day, the land had rest for 80 years. 80 years of peace. 2 generations of children who grew up free. 2 generations of families who could worship without fear, who could live without the crushing weight of oppression pressing down on their necks. All of it because of Ehud, the left-handed man, the one the world overlooked. So what do we take from this story? What does God want us to see? The first lesson is this: God uses the overlooked. Ehud was not the obvious choice. He wasn't from a powerful tribe. He wasn't a celebrated warrior. He carried a limitation that his culture viewed with suspicion, and yet God chose him. Specifically, deliberately, purposefully. Whatever you think disqualifies you, your background, your weakness, your past, the thing people have always used to dismiss you, God sees it differently. He doesn't choose in spite of your limitations. Sometimes he chooses because of them. Because when the victory comes, there will be no question about where it came from. The second lesson is this: preparation and faith are not opposites. Ehud didn't just pray and walk in empty-handed. He made a sword. He thought through the plan. He positioned himself carefully. He acted with wisdom and precision. Faith is not passive. Faith moves. Faith prepares. Faith shows up with everything it has and trusts God to do what only God can do. Are you waiting for God to act while refusing to move yourself? Sometimes God is waiting for you to take the first step. The third lesson is this: oppression is never the final word. 18 years felt like forever. It probably felt like God had forgotten. It probably felt like this was just the way things were now, that the old stories of miracles and deliverance were just that. Old stories. But God had not forgotten. He never does. Whatever you are carrying right now, whatever has been pressing down on you for months, for years, for what feels like a lifetime, God has not forgotten you. The cry of his people always reaches his ears. Always. And the fourth lesson, perhaps the most important of all, is this: the real deliverer was always pointing to someone greater. Ehud was a shadow, a preview, a hint of something, someone still to come. Because one day, God would not send a man with a hidden sword. He would send his own son. And Jesus would not walk into a palace to face a king. He would walk into death itself, willingly, deliberately, with full knowledge of what was coming, to deliver not just one nation, but every person who has ever lived under the oppression of sin and fear and shame. Ehud freed Israel for 80 years. Jesus offers freedom that never ends. The blade Ehud carried was hidden from the enemy. The power Jesus carried was hidden from the rulers of this age. Because if they had understood it, the Bible says, they would never have crucified the Lord of glory. But they did. And in doing so, they sealed their own defeat. Death thought it had won. The stone was rolled. The doors were locked. And then, on the third day, the king walked out. So here is the question I want to leave you with today. What has God placed in your hand or in your weakness that you haven't fully trusted Him with yet? What room are you afraid to walk into? What message are you carrying that you haven't delivered? Ehud didn't wait for someone more qualified. He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He walked in with what he had, in the name of the God who sent him, and the world was never the same. You don't have to be the strongest. You don't have to be the most obvious choice. You just have to be willing. Because the God who chose a left-handed man to bring down a king is the same God who is looking at you right now, and He is not finished yet. Based on Judges 3:12-30.